Hello everyone. Today our group are going to talk about the access to water, and we're going to study the Mekong River case. Next page. So these are the reasons why we chose the topic is that we want to emphasize the problem of Mekong River and then point out how Chinese people see the source of water affect neighboring countries. And then why do we have to tackle this problem immediately? Next. So these are the introduction. The first picture you can see there are 11 dams in China, and this is the main problem that caused the effect in the downstream of Mekong River. And the second picture is the dam. It's the picture of the dam. So next page. So the dam on the upstream of Mekong River caused like the big problem of the drought in Mekong River in the downstream. And as you can see in the picture, like in the downstream, there are lack of water and also like sediments. So it might give some pollution. It might affect the countries that pass through the Mekong River. So next page. So the lack of water and water on upstream of Mekong River caused the first problem is that fish has no links to land. And this triggered the problem of reducing the biological diversity and the ecosystem. Next page. And the second problem is that due to that because of the dam on the upstream of Mekong River, there are less sediments, and it endangers the delta in the downstream of Mekong River, and the delta is is active as an element. And on the delta, there are about 20 million residents there. With the increasing sea level, delta might be disappear soon. That's why we should tackle the problem. Next one.
Speaking of the current circumstance in the Mekong River, so it's really important to talk to the history. This river crossed several countries such as Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. For a long time, the river played a crucial role in the Southeast Asia region. Back to the colonial day, like the colonial area, the European imperials had their eyes set on Mekong region, forming what they call the French Indochina, which we now know as the independent states of like Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand. The Mekong River wasn't just a waterway; it was like the important lifeline for the economy of these countries. It served as a really crucial role for transporting economic goods like rice, timber, and rubber. Okay, so France, like the other colonial power, used the river as its advantage, exploiting the region's sources for its own ambition and to compete with other empires. Although countries surrounded by the Mekong River experienced such brutal war for the independent, the importance of river has lasted until now. In 1995, the Mekong Agreement was signed by 4 countries: Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and Cambodia, and 2 dialogue partners, China and Myanmar. It focused on the substantial development and the management of the Mekong River water and the related resources, and they also create the form the Mekong River Commission. But however, it seems like the problem will be solved as the agreement formed and the commission has been formed. But China is still on the upstream of the Mekong River. Chinese can actually do whatever they want to do. They build several dams to preserve the water and to generate electricity. As I mentioned, this river is crucial to countries, especially for economic. For example, Vietnam's Mekong Delta is food like the export region, and Vietnam it produce 50% of the country's rice, and much of Southeast Asia also relies on Vietnam's rice export, 90% of which comes from the delta. If China continues its practice of withholding water from dams and during the drought in downstream country like those country in Mekong Delta, it will exacerbate the drought-related issue for Southeast Asian countries, and this could potentially lead to the economic crisis for these countries. But nevertheless, China could use its strength over Southeast Asian countries to get what it wants in like politically. For example, China might say, "Oh, I will release water from dams in the summer if countries in the Mekong Delta they don't they don't they want to exchange certain things, so that will release the water. So consequently, China can use the water as a leverage to force Southeast Asian countries like to concede some issues or policies in foreign affairs or other domestic affairs.
Yeah, let's delve into China Belt and Road Initiative on the Mekong River. So China is building infrastructure across Asia, and the Mekong River is a key focus. China has built dams on the upper Mekong, raising concerns about water flow and fish populations. Examples include Jihong Dam in China, Chayaburi Dam in Laos. Or China is modernizing and building ports and waterways along the Mekong to improve trade also, such as some port in Cambodia, Laos, linked to China rail network, or even in Vietnam. New rails line connect China's Yunnan province to Mekong countries, such as the Botan Vientiane line in Laos. And eventually, special economic zones are also created. This zone aim to attract investments. So we can find some in Laos, Cambodia, for manufacturing and agriculture, and Cambodia for tourism and logistics. Next.
Next part is the consequence of the population. Well, the first problem we are concerned about is technical effect. And the change in water levels by hydropower dams in China can be felt 2,000 kilometers downstream from Chinese dams, as far south as Cambodia. And according to an analysis of in northern Thailand, the hydropower dams constructed by China increase dry seasons and decrease wet season flows. And it can indicate that it might affect badly on the quality of food security of the downstream people and fishing problem, seeing the aquatic species are starved due to the lack of nutrients. And this all the result of a recent study led by a researcher from Aalto University in Finland. And the second problem is the destruction of biodiversity. The water flow are contrary to natural seasonal rhythms, go against the ecological needs of the ecosystems and species, and contradict the genetic migration programming of aquatic species. The drying out and then flooding wetlands and riparian zone, confusing the migratory pattern of fish and invertebrate and blocking the fish progress with a dam wall to make things worse.
Okay, so beside those consequences, there are some other ones that we should take into consideration. The first one is social consequences. As you may know, fishermen, especially those who live in the Mekong Delta River, are really struggle to survive. Many people in Vietnamese in Vietnam, and Vietnamese households depend heavily on fishing to make a living. But when the Chinese build hydropower dams, it blocks many fish species access to spawning grounds and important habitats that lead to a decline in populations, and the fishermen cannot catch fish, and so that they couldn't sell it and make money from that. So we have research and in some Vietnamese newspaper, and we find out that this is the precise case. Đặng Hữu Đức, he is a 41 years old fisherman living near the bank of Mekong Delta River, shared that when I was small, fish were abundant here. I could have a few buckets of fish after catching for a short while. I'm afraid that there won't be any fish left when my son becomes a fisherman. So it's very disappointing. Yeah. So besides these consequences, there are economical consequences on local community. So as you may know, hydropower dams block not only fish species access, but also block essential sediments, which is essential for farming and growing in Vietnam. So when the essential sediment is blocked, the soil is salinized, and this will lead to diminishing in harvest. We found a certain case in Vietnam. His name is Trần Văn Cung. He's also a farmer, Vietnamese farmer, living next to the bank of Mekong Delta River. So standing on the bank of Mekong Delta River, he can see his farmland washed away before his very eyes. His diminishing harvest now brings in barely half of the 250 million tons annually that he earned just a few years ago. So when the hydropower dams are built, the farmers cannot it cannot guarantee the farmer a sustainable future. So many people have to find another job that can make more money, a lucrative occupation. So yeah, that is all about the consequences of the hydropower dams.
Okay, so can we get to the next slide? Yes, thank you. So all the China's action on biodiversity and environment could lead us to ask ourselves if this policy could be qualified as an ecocide. So an ecocide is a juridical concept that, like, side from Latin, it, like, means killing, like a homicide. Basically, it means like the destruction forever of an ecosystem by an anthropic factor, so the human, on this environment, especially by overexploitation, etc. So the most famous example of ecocide is the drying out of the Ural Sea near Russia, near Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, more precisely, because of the overfishing. The problem is it's not a concept that is recognized by the international law yet. Some countries have recognized it, for example, Vietnam, because during the Vietnam War, the Orange Agent was used to destroy the jungles and the environmental ecosystems to harm the warriors, the Vietnam warriors, for example, the mangrove and stuff. So, according to the UNESCO, about 30% of Vietnam territory was exposed to Orange Agents. So this is why Vietnam was the first country to criminalize it around, like, during the 70s. Now some activists still try to raise awareness about it. For example, in European Union with the citizenship initiative referendum, but it is not something recognized by everyone yet. So it could be theoretically considered as it, like, there, as my colleague said, many proof of it, but now China couldn't be condemned now for it.
Dam block fish migration, causing a sharp drop in freshwater fish populations. Reduce upstream flow affect water use for farming and in households, and downstream sediment buildup and changing water levels can trigger natural disaster like landslides and produce damage to river ecosystem and loss of biodiversity. Next page. And we're gonna focus on which eventualities for Pacific solving of this matter. We think they should set up an intergovernmental organization, create unified rules for using and managing water resources, improve disaster warning system and emergency response coordination, regulate larger, get input from all countries along the river, and conduct environmental impact assessment that consider all countries affected, restrict projects that severely impact downstream countries. This is a Pacific solving matter, we think. And next page, next one. Thank you.
Okay, regarding the impact of China control over the Mekong River water resource on the neighboring countries, especially Vietnam, we have summarized the following points. First, China upstream dam construction on the Mekong River has reduced water flow and sediment to downstream countries like Vietnam, severely impacting agriculture, domestic water use, and soil fertility. These changes disrupt ecosystems, harm biodiversity, and threaten local communities' livelihood and food security. More seriously, reduced water volume makes estuarine areas more susceptible to the seawater intrusion, causing soil salinization and further damaging agriculture and the environment. So we hope today's discussion help everyone better understand the importance of the issues and inspires collective effort to find the solution that ensure the sustainable development of the Mekong rivers. Thank you.